Alright, starting with Digi-Egg cards, I'm running 4 copies of the BT14 Greymon, which gives us the draw power that we need, as the main goal is to utilize our rookies to chip in the early stages to facilitate for that. Speaking of rookies, the main idea for me is to continuously search as much as possible, ensuring that I gather my hybrid pieces as well as my tamers, because that's the main game plan. Therefore, I'm running the BT17 Flamemon and 4 copies of it. Potentially getting double hits is always super value, especially if it's an inheritable. We can always utilize it with its on deletion to play out another tamer back. As for Pokemons, I'm running 4 copies of the new red one and 2 of the older BT7 ones. They're both intended to help you search even further and gain memory back, whereas the new one can now digivolve on top of your egg, facilitating another play so that you can climb up your stack that way instead, whereas the older one helps you searches deeper and gain additional memory, which you always want to intend to hard play instead. For level 4s, starting with Agumon, I got 1 copy of the new BT18 one, which is really good for recycling pieces that I need back in the trash, and also giving extra DP for inheritable. Speaking of DP inheritable, same goes for the Burning Greymon from BT17, which also gives us raid, and we can digivolve into another hybrid by reduced cost by 1 when we're attacking at the same time. The new Kumamon is fantastic as it can digivolve for 2 on top of Tommy, but also still digivolve on top of any of your red level 3s for 3 costs. The main idea is to trash sources with it, and also just like the Burning Greymon, we get to digivolve into another hybrid as we attack and reduce the cost by 1. With its inheritable, it provides us the floating capability to bring the tamer back out from underneath whenever we leave the battle area, which is really important that we always want to get into something on top of it. There's also the one of new Korikakumon, which is the beast form of Kumamon, which provides us jamming, but also to stun down the opponent's Digimon that has no sources. Kazemon is now green and red, but can still continue to digivolve on top of any Zoe for 2 costs, otherwise on top of any red rookie for 3. By getting into Kazemon, we get to suspend down the opponent's Digimon and swing over it, which really synergizes greatly with the new Zoe, which we'll talk about more in the combos. Just like Kumamon, we can then digivolve into another hybrid for reduced cost of 1 when attacking. Zephyrmon, being the beast form of Kazemon, gives piercing and additional DP, and the reason why I'm running 3 copies of this is because I want to see the piercing inheritable as much as possible, especially when I go into EmperorGreymon to swing over the opponent's Digimon, just so I can do maximum damage and get maximum value out of it. For level 5s, I'm still running 2 of the old BT7 Outermon with its inherited effect to negate any options. It's just so crucial to give us that extra safety net as we go for game-winning attacks. Being able to reduce its Digivolution cost as you climb up is just incredibly valuable, which also gives us another alternative way to climb into our level 6s with efficiency. When it comes to the newer level 5s, the BT18 Daipenmon can warp on top of any red or blue tamer as long as you have Kumamon and Korikakumon to slide underneath it. Using Ice Clad for Digimon battles can come into your favor, especially when you synergize with Source Strip, and it instantly deletes one of your opponent's Digimon with no sources as soon as it's digivolved into. I got 1 copy of Jet Sylphie, which has the same warping mechanic with Kazemon and Zephyrmon instead. Raid is great to take down smaller bodies in the early stages of the game, and we can also suspend down one of the opponent's Digimon or Tamers when going into it. For level 6s, we of course have the all-new EmperorGreymon, which is red, blue, and green. There's 2 ways to get into this card. First is to traditionally digivolve on top of level 5, but you have to pay 5 costs. It can go on top of either any red, blue, or green level 5 Digimon, or you can use its alternative Digivolution condition to warp on top of a Takuya as long as it has 5 hybrid traits in its sources specifically. By getting into this card, the more colors you have underneath its sources, the more you can strip against your opponents. You also get to suspend down one of their Digimon and then attack afterwards. Once it takes down the opponent's Digimon, it can also unsuspend and gain security attack +1 for the turn, which is your main source of damage. As for the level 7, I'm running the one and only Susanomon Ace. It being an ace card means we can counter and blast against the opponents during their turn when they attack. Otherwise, during our own turn, there's 2 other ways to get into it. It can digivolve on top of any level 6 that is any color for 6 costs, or it can warp on top of Takuya and Koji for 6 costs, but this time requiring 10 specific hybrid traits underneath it. When you digivolve and attack this card, you get to delete your opponent's 10,000 DP or lower Digimon, but for every color you have within its own sources, you get to add extra 2,000 to the deletion, and it's not even once per turn. It also has a secondary when attacking effect, where the more tamers you have underneath its sources, the more you can recover back to your security, and the more you can trash against your opponents to go for the game finishing play. And one of the extra nice things about this new Susanomon is now that it has the root trait of being a hybrid form as well, meaning it has a lot of synergy with all the other cards in the deck. For Tamers, you definitely have to have the 4 copies of Takuya Koji, which is your main memory setter, and with its inherited effect, you can now attack at the end of the turn with your hybrids, which is effectively giving them blitz. With its starter main, you want to continue to ramp up sources underneath so you can gather more and more different inheritables to gain maximum value whenever you go into your hybrid plays. Despite it being 5 costs, you want to see this as soon as possible in any stages of the game. To synergize it with absorbing sources underneath from the trash at the starter main, this is the reason why we got Zoe, which provides you the draw power so you can continuously cycle through your deck. And you want to utilize her inherited effect to take down your opponent's Digimon so that you can play another Tamer that has inherited effects for free from your hand, and that's a lot of value in one go. As for Tommy, it provides you additional memory to work with at the start of main by trashing Hybrid and 10 Warriors cards from your hand. And with its inherited effect, you can strip sources off your opponent's Digimon while attacking and get to draw if your opponent has no Digimon that has Digivolution cards. For option cards, I'm running 2 of the all-new Winter Flame Isis Sword, which is incredibly powerful, giving you another way to go into your EmperorGreymon from hand or trash for free, meanwhile adding up even more sources underneath it. With its security effect, you can even play a Tamer from hand or trash, which is really great value aside from just adding it to your hand afterwards. I also play 2 copies of Ancient Guardian Deity, which also helps us recur cards that we want back from the trash, and play our Tamers for reduced cost. And just like Winter Flame and Isis Sword, it has the exact same security effect. To round off for all the options, I got one of the Devastation and Rebirth option card, which gives us another way to get into Susanomon to make the finishing strike. By using this option card, you can place Tamers from your board underneath your Susanomon so that you can recover and trash even more, as it's almost like an auto win button. Alright, tech choices and other cards that you guys can also run in this deck. Ukuman is also great for efficient searching and always a fantastic turn 1 play. Penguinmon is another alternative rookie that can help you reduce your Digivolution cost as you go into your hybrids and give jamming for its inherited effect. Aside from the BT18 EmperorGreymon, you can still run some of the older ones. The BT7 gives you Blitz, where it's great when you don't necessarily have your Takuya or Koji to give the end of turn attack. The BT12 one gives you early damage and removal, which can also help you float your Takuyas back when it's deleted. Speaking of Takuya, you can also include the old BT7 one to add additional sources so your Emperor Grey can also go on top of it even with the new one. Red Memory Boost is great for searching because now most of your cards are red itself and gives you additional memory alongside with Gravity Crush to make more plays. Atomic Inferno can give you instant surprise damage to help close games even faster. Crimson Blaze as a removal option to deal with wide boards. And if you're feeling extra spicy, you can even run the old green JP and Beatomon for additional search, where the Kazemon and Zephyrmon can also go on top of him for piercing. Alright, combos and how to play the all-new EmperorGreymon Unified Spirit deck. Starting with your mulligan hand, you want to find rookies that can help you search, such as the Flamemon, Bokus, and multiple copies of them are fantastic because you can always have the choice to go at the front to hard play them to find your Tamer pieces along with your hybrids as your main goal, otherwise Digivolve in the back so then you can establish a rookie early swing as well. Eventually, as you climb up and cycle through your deck, you're going to find your level 5s, and then eventually EmperorGreymon being your main level 6 that you want to get into for big explosive plays. Alright, let's begin the very first combo with the Tommy and Kumamon line with 1 memory. That is all you need with a Tommy setup. And at the start of the main phase, you're going to use this effect to toss away any hybrid or 10 warrior to gain a memory. So then you're at 2. And then you would Digivolve into Kumamon for the 2 costs. Kumamon, when Digivolving effect, is going to trash the bottom 2 sources of one of your opponent's Digimon. Of course, you're going to go ahead and attack with it afterwards. You're going to use Tommy's Inheritable to trash another one. And if your opponent has no Digimon with sources on the board, including no Digimon on the board, you get to draw that card. Once you draw into that card, if they do have a Digimon, or once you stripped away all their sources, this is when you get the access to go into Daipenmon from your hand by reducing the cost by 1, making it 2 costs for the Digivolve instead. With Daipenmon, the whole idea is to delete one of your opponent's Digimon with no sources, otherwise you can try to attack into your opponent's suspended Digimon with the ability of Ice Clad, ensuring that you have more sources than they do. This is a very good early stage combo because once you have that set up with the Kumamon Inheritable, if your opponent tries to get rid of this level 5 in any way and it will leave the battle area, you always get to play the Tommy back out, even though once these get into trash, so you can go ahead and repeat this combo again and again. So let's talk about in a different situation where you have 2 memory to start off instead, so that you can gain access to a total of 3 memory. Doing the same thing, tossing away a hybrid trait or 10 warriors in order to gain a memory at the start of main. This time, you can actually Digivolve into Korikaku for 3 costs on top of Tommy. Korikaku is going to stun your opponent's Digimon with no sources. But what this is going to give you, it's going to give you jamming to ensure a good security check, because next you can then Digivolve into Kumamon again for 0 cost on top of Korikakumon. Then you would repeat the same thing, strip sources and attack and draw if your opponent has no sources. Then you Digivolve into Daipenmon, and this time Daipenmon will have jamming. One of the nice things with these combos is that you can always intertwine the sequencing and how you want to climb up the Digivolution stack, because in other words, you can also go into the Kumamon first this time again, swing with the Kumamon, go into the Korikaku for reduced cost of 1, making it free. So at least you're swinging with jamming. And again, stunning and stripping sources as you get to. And then you can even finish it off by going into Daipemon this way instead, and you have the exact same stack. And it's always really important to make sure that your Kumamon is within the stack providing the inheritable, just in case if you ever get this removed, you can always play the Tommy back out just like before. So for combo number 2, I want to showcase the Zoe and Kazemon line, and you want to have access to 2 memory during your turn, whether if your opponent puts you to 2 to begin with, or if you have a Tommy set up prior, that can be fantastic as well. Using your starter main phase effects, toss away 1 card with Zoe to draw 1, use Tommy, toss away another hybrid to gain that 1 memory. Doesn't really matter what you toss away here. We're not utilizing the trash. We're just trying to meet those traits to get the maximum efficiency. Then you want to have your opponent to have a Digimon on the board that you can actually potentially go over and attack it. By going into Kazemon for 2 costs, you're going to suspend down that particular Digimon that you intend to take down. And with that, you can then swing into that Digimon with Kazemon. With Kazemon, when attacking, you can then Digivolve into level 5. In this case, let's just say we're going to Jet Sylphie, reducing the cost by 1, making it 2 instead. And now Jet Sylphie is an 8k body swing over that Digimon. Otherwise, you can utilize its raid this moment as well to redirect and switch into attack target that's the highest DP on your opponent's board as well. The whole idea is to try to take down your opponent's Digimon. Utilize the when Digivolving effects to suspend something down, prevent it from unsuspending as well. Once you take down the opponent's Digimon, you want to use Zoe's Inheritable to play out any other tamer that you have from your hand that with inherited effects. Ideally, it's going to be your Takuya and Koji because then they are the highest cost tamer, and being able to play a 5 cost like this for free is the ultimate value of the combo. Let's show you guys another example with this combo if you had 3 memory access instead. Similarly, after tossing a card with Tommy, you're going to be at 3 memory this time, so then you can first then Digivolve into Zephyrmon for 3 cost. With Zephyrmon, you're going to give your Digimon extra 3000 DP, which will be the stack itself has piercing. Then you can go into Kazemon for 0 cost, suspend down one of your opponent's Digimon, and then intend to attack over it. This time, instead of going into Jet Sylphie as you attack, why not Digivolve into Aldamon? With Aldamon, you reduce the cost by itself for 2, and with Kazemon, you reduce the cost by 1, making it entirely free. Aldamon's going to gain another additional 4000 DP, and with that amount of DP, you can take down almost any Digimon in the game, and just like before, utilizing Zoe's Inheritable to play out another tamer. At the same time, this time, because you have Zephyrmon inherited, you also get to pierce for 1 extra damage. With all of these effects, you're still at 0 memory, allowing you to continue to play, which you can potentially go into your EmperorGreymon, passing your opponent to 5, which isn't the most optimal way to do it, which is then we're going to show you guys how in the next combo. For the final combo, I want to show you guys how we can get into EmperorGreymon by unifying all our spirits together to either do a ton of burst damage in one go or even finish off games. One of the most straightforward ways is to go into EmperorGreymon on top of Takuya specifically that has 5 sources, 5 hybrid sources specifically, and it cannot be more or less. Even with Tommy, in this case, you start your turn at 4 memory at the start of main after using its effect. You're going to pass your opponent down to 1 and you can make multiple attacks, potentially even finish them off if they don't have a lot of security left that way. But there is a slightly more optimal way to get into it, and this is where I want to show you guys the Wind to Flame Ice to Sword option card. So utilizing the starter mains of Zoe and Tommy first, trashing away some hybrids to draw a card, toss another one to gain a memory. It is really important to keep note of on how you want to manage your resources effectively of when you absorb sources with Takuya. And that is because during some stages of the game, you might want to access some pieces back from the trash and utilize them, but the more you ramp up, it is the better, and it snowballs really hard because you get a lot of inheritables in there. Now, when you use Wind to Flame Ice to Sword, that's why it's really important to have at least Tommy and Zoe, because it will fulfill the color requirements instantly. So by paying 3 costs, and in this specific case, I would actually forego on tucking sources underneath Takuya and Koji because I might actually want to toss it underneath Tommy here. So by placing 5 from the combination of your hand or trash, you can go into EmperorGreymon. Making sure that our different names is also another important thing. But now you get to go into EmperorGrey for 3 costs only instead of the 5. And with all that memory you had to begin with, you can still keep your turn. Then you want to use EmperorGreymon's When Digivolving effect to strip your opponent's sources depending on how many colors you have underneath it. and then suspend down one of your opponent's Digimon, and then it can go ahead and attack. The effect to let it attack is most useful when you're about to pass your turn, but since the memory's still on your side, it's still your turn. Two of the most important sources that I recommend always having is Zephyrmon and Aldamon. Zephyrmon for piercing is especially when your opponent has a Digimon so that you can clear the board and take down their security both at the same time. Aside from that, Daipenmon or any form of DP buff is always great. Flamemon for on deletion to play out more Tamers is always good. And of course, very importantly, keeping one of the level 4s that provide you that inheritable to float the Tamer back out is also constant value. So once you use this, you strip away the sources once again, suspend your opponent's Digimon, and you attack into that particular Digimon. Once you take down that opponent's Digimon, you get to use the your turn once per turn effect of EmperorGreymon to unsuspend it, as it gains security attack +1 as well. And now, once that Digimon's taken down, because of Zephyrmon, you will pierce for 2 checks. With Aldamon, you prevent any options from activating. Assuming your opponent has 4 security to begin with, they'll be down to 2 at this moment. And then this is when you can attack again with your EmperorGreymon into one of their suspended Digimon to pierce for 2 checks, or go straight for security for that remaining damage. And afterwards, with no security left, you can Digivolve into any hybrid that you want. Doesn't really matter when it comes to memory, but Aguni for traditional style. And thanks to the Takuya end of turn once per turn, you're allowed to attack a player, so it's effectively blitz, so you win the game off that. So to take this combo to the next level, if your opponent has 5 security to begin with, you can potentially instant KO them with the help of Susanomon Ace and his dedicated option cards. With the exact same cards and the combos, you might have a slightly different execution this time. Starting your turn at 3 thanks to Takuya, using Zoe, tossing away the hybrid just to draw a card, using Tommy, toss away another hybrid to gain a memory. Use Wind to Flame, Ice to Sword, and this time, you instead of placing sources underneath Zoe or Tommy, you definitely want to tuck it underneath Takuya. And with the same pieces as before, you're going to have the same amount of inheritables that you're trying to optimize. Once you go into Emperor Grey for the 3 costs of using the option, you do the same thing, trash sources, suspend down a Digimon, and attack over it. Once you attack over that Digimon, you're going to pierce for 2 checks and your opponent's going to be down to 3 security. After taking it down, you also get to unsuspend. After using Wind to Flame, Ice to Sword, this is where you want to use Lord of Devastation and Rebirth, going into your Susanomon for 6 cost. With this option card, you can actually tuck in your Tommy and your Zoe together underneath Susanomon Ace as well, and gain 2 memory back off of it. Once you go into Susanomon Ace, you can now use Takuya and Koji's inherited effect to attack at the end of turn, thanks to Susanomon having the rule trait of being hybrid form as well. At this moment, once you swing into your opponent, they have 3 security left, and you want to use this when attacking effect to return all your Tamers, which are going to be your 3. And of course, the more Tamers you had in board prior to using the Lord of Devastation, the more Tamers you can put underneath as well, assuming making sure they're different colors. Once you put the 3 to the bottom, you immediately trash the top 3 of your opponent's security and you swing for game. Don't forget to grab the Spirit Transcendence collection on the AVAULT store right now, as we have limited quantities. As always, thank you so much for watching. You guys have a great day, great night, wherever you are. See you in the next video. It is AVAULT signing out.